My collection has changed a lot in the last few years, and in this new series we're going to take a look at my entire collection one section at a time. In today's episode we're going to take a look at and discuss my PlayStation 4 collection. Now, what is the point of this series? The point of this series is not for me to show off my collection. The point of this series, and what I hope that you get out of this video, is to learn about PlayStation 4 games that maybe you never heard of, never knew existed, games that you can add to your own collection and play. So my hope is that I can recommend to you some awesome games to play, as well as some hidden gems, and even point out a few games that have actually gone up in value that you can be on the lookout for. And then this is also an opportunity for you to give me some recommendations to add to my PlayStation 4 collection in the comments. Now, before we start talking about all the numbers and talking about all the games themselves, let me give you guys my background with the PlayStation 4. Now, what is my background with the PlayStation 4? Well, I got the PlayStation 4 that's right around the time when it came out, and I immediately fell in love with the PlayStation 4. As a matter of fact, it is easily my favorite PlayStation console of all time. Now, granted, I don't have a whole lot of experience with the PS1, just besides some of the staples, and I've got limited experience with the PlayStation 2 and zero experience with the PlayStation 3. So really, in reality, the PlayStation 4 is the first PlayStation console that I've really dug into and gone all in on. I know a lot of you are probably screaming at the camera right now, but I do have plans in the future to dig into the PS1 library and the PS2 library a lot more. PlayStation 3 library, not as much, because I primarily played the 360 during that generation, so I played most of the cross-platform or multi-platform releases. I just missed out on some of those first-party PS3 releases. But the PS4 is a magnificent console, and I didn't really start collecting for it heavily until, I'd say, about 2 or 3 years ago. I was just buying games that I really wanted to play as they released, so brand new releases, so that I could play them day one. But then the last couple of years, I've really started to dig into the PS4 library quite a bit more and start collecting for the console. And now I have quite a few games in my PlayStation 4 collection, so let's go ahead and transition into talking about the numbers right now. Now, just like with the Nintendo Switch collection, I actually had a lot more PS4 games about a year ago. I had close to 200 games, and I sold a lot of games from my collection because they were games that I just weren't really interested in, games that I just really would never play. So now what I'm left with is a collection of games that I probably will play most of over time, and games that I do like and games that I am interested in. So I really slimmed down and tightened up the collection. Now, currently my PlayStation 4 collection has exactly 145 games, and they are all complete in box, although just like with the Switch, complete in box doesn't mean a lot for these modern consoles. Most of the time that's just going to be a case and a disc, but every now and then you'll get some extras, or maybe even a manual if you're lucky. Now, the total estimated value of all the games in my PS4 collection at the time of this recording, using price charting, is $1,936. Now, before we start going over all the games in the collection and me recommending some games to you guys, I want to tell you about the top 5 most expensive games in my PlayStation 4 collection. Now, let's talk about the 5 most expensive games in my PlayStation 4 collection. Now, a few things to note. These prices are at the time of this recording, so by the time you watch this video, these prices will likely have gone up or they will have gone down. Also, I am using pricecharting.com to get these prices, not eBay. eBay is going to be a little bit different, but price charting should be within around the same ballpark. But with that out of the way, we're going to start with the least expensive to the most expensive of the 5. Attack on Titan, worth around $35. Elden Ring, worth around $35. And one thing to note, the only reason that it's worth around that much is because it's a super popular game and it's still relatively new. Deadpool, worth around $43. Yakuza Kiwami 2 Steelbook Edition, worth around $46. And the most expensive game in my PlayStation 4 collection I was not expecting, and that is Transformers Devastation, which is worth around $55. Now, just like we did with the Nintendo Switch Collection video, we're going to split these games into two different groups. The games that I have played, many of which I've beat, and all of the games that I have not played. Now, for the PS4 collection, there's actually almost an equal number of games that I have played versus games that I have not played. So I still have a lot of my own library to dig into in the backlog, but we're going to start with the games that I have played. I'm going to say just a quick thing about each game in the interest of time, and in the games that I have not played, I'm just going to quickly name them off. Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection, which includes Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, Uncharted The Thief's End, and Uncharted The Lost Legacy. I binge played through this entire series, including the PlayStation Vita game, and I absolutely love the Uncharted series. It is phenomenal. I think Uncharted 4 is my absolute favorite game in the series, and I'm still hoping that Naughty Dog releases an Uncharted 5. Wolfenstein: The New Order is just a balls to the walls, intense, action-packed first-person shooter with a really good story, and the gameplay is just phenomenal. Outward, this is a total hidden gem on the PS4 that can be played cooperatively online with up to 2 people. The best way I know how to describe this is it sort of plays like Dark Souls in a way, but it has a ton of survival elements to it, and it is super hardcore and difficult, but it is a really good game, and I hope the developer can create a sequel. Remnant from the Ashes is a cooperative Souls-like game for up to 3 people, but with guns, and it is really fun. I played this briefly with Eric from Retro Gaming Pandemic. We really need to get back to this and finish it. Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3. I played and beat Dark Souls 2. Absolutely loved it. Had a blast. Every moment of it had a blast. I haven't beat Dark Souls 3 yet, but I did make it a fair bit of ways into it. I need to get back to it. Days Gone. This game, I feel like this game doesn't get enough credit and enough love. It is an open world post-apocalyptic zombie game, but the zombies act like the zombies from World War Z, where you will be fighting giant hordes of them. It has a fantastic story. The gameplay is a blast. I really enjoyed this one. Death Stranding. So this is one of those games that you either love it or you hate it. Now me, I'm not really a big Kojima fan. I haven't really played many of the Metal Gear Solid games at all, but I freaking loved this game. I could not put it down. I was captivated from start to finish, and I am definitely part of the love it camp. Deus Ex Mankind Divided is a first-person action RPG, and it is really good game. I really enjoyed it. Had a great story, great gameplay. Dishonored Definitive Edition and Dishonored 2. Dishonored I played and beat. I really loved it. It is a phenomenal game. I love all the different powers you can have. I love the stealth gameplay. I have played Dishonored 2, but I have not beat it. I need to get back to that at some point, but this series is phenomenal. And the studio, Arcane Studio, is one of my favorite game developers here lately. They put out fantastic games. Doom. What else can I say? This is one of the most intense, action-packed, balls to the walls first-person shooters I think I've ever played in my life. Dragon Age Inquisition, it's an action RPG with an open world. I tried getting into it. I was really struggling. I might try again one day. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. I'm a really big fan of the Dragon Ball series, and this game is a lot of fun. It got a little repetitive, but it's a lot of fun, and you play through pretty much the entire Dragon Ball Z storyline from start to finish, so it's really cool. Dreams. This is a game where people can make games, and it's hilarious. Some of the stuff you play on here is hilarious, but there's also some really creative stuff that people put a lot of work into. So this is something I recommend you guys dig into one day if you're interested. The Spyro Reignited trilogy. This is the remakes for Spyro 1, 2, and 3. I binge played all 3 of these games and had an absolute blast. Such a fun 3D platforming series. The Surge. This is a Souls-like game, but it's futuristic. So it's like a futuristic Souls-like game, and it's a lot of fun. It's not as good as Dark Souls, but it's a pretty decent Souls-like. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I'll admit I only put a couple hours into this, but this is many people's favorite Assassin's Creed game, so I might get into it again, and maybe it'll be the first Assassin's Creed game that I actually really get into. World War Z. I played the shit out of this with Devin, and we had a blast. This is a super fun game that plays sort of like Left 4 Dead, but I think it's even more intense than Left 4 Dead. We Happy Few. This sort of reminds me of BioShock a little bit. It's a pretty unique game. It's a lot of fun. Definitely plays like BioShock in a way, has a BioShock vibe to it. And a very interesting story. I recommend checking it out. Nier Automata. This is a game that I started, put about 10 hours into and fell off of, but I need to get back into it because I was really enjoying it. It's a fun action RPG from Square Enix. Ratchet & Clank. This is the remake of the original Ratchet & Clank, but it is also based on the movie, based on the game, but it is a fantastic entry in the Ratchet & Clank series. So much fun. Slime Rancher. Here's another hidden gem that flew under the radar, and I'll be honest, I don't know how to explain this game. It's a action adventure, sort of a Metroidvania, but it's also a farm game, but you're farming slime and you're exploring this mysterious, huge island full of secrets. It has some physics-based puzzles in it. It's just such a good game. I recommend everybody giving it a chance. The Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. This is the remake of Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3. Super difficult, but really fun platforming series. Control. I'll admit, I didn't understand the story in this game at all, but I really enjoyed the gameplay and I enjoyed the really kind of creepy and trippy psychedelic nature of the game. It's a really fun third-person action-adventure game. Code Vein. The only way I know how to describe this is it is an anime Souls-like game, and it's actually pretty fun. It's not as good as Dark Souls, not as hard, but it's still pretty fun. Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition. This is a super insane first-person shooter where you can pull off some just really crazy moves. It's a lot of fun. Borderlands 3, the third entry, well, the third numbered entry in the Borderlands series, and I really, really love this one. I know some people didn't like it, but I had an absolute blast with it. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I don't know how I feel about this game. It's definitely a Castlevania-like game. I believe it's from the creator of Symphony of the Night, and it's supposed to be like a spiritual successor. I didn't beat it. I'm close to the end, and I don't know. I'm kind of at odds on this one. BioShock the Collection. So I've played and beat BioShock 1 and BioShock Infinite. I actually haven't beat BioShock 2, but the BioShock games are phenomenal. Super fun, creepy, first-person action-adventure games. Biomutant, another game that has flown under the radar that I feel like is a hidden gem. It got bad reviews when it came out, but I really enjoyed it. It has some problems. It's not perfect, but it's a really, really fun open-world action RPG that I recommend everybody check out. Bayonetta 1 and Vanquish. Now, I have played and beat Bayonetta 1, but I've never played Vanquish, so that's one that I need to check out. Let me know how it is in the comments. Batman Return to Arkham, which includes Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. I've played and beat Arkham Asylum. I think it's one of the best Batman games ever made. I've beat it twice, 100%ed it once. I have played Arkham City, but I never did beat it. I need to get back into it because a lot of people tell me they like it even more than Arkham Asylum. Assassin's Creed Origins. This is Assassin's Creed in an Egyptian setting. I put about 20 hours into this, and I was enjoying it at first until it started to get way too repetitive because I felt like I was just doing the same thing over and over, and then I learned how to completely take advantage of the enemy AI, and it just became stupidly easy. Elden Ring, I don't know what else I can say about this. It is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. It is easily one of my favorite games ever made. I think it's one of the best games ever made. It's just phenomenal. It's basically a Souls game, but with a huge open world. One of the most finely crafted open world games I've ever played. It even beats out Breath of the Wild for me. Dying Light is a super fun and intense open world zombie game where you can do parkour. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This is what you get when you combine Dark Souls, Star Wars, and Metroid Prime. It's phenomenal, and I cannot wait for the sequel. Yakuza 0, although I didn't beat it, I was really enjoying it. It is a sort of action RPG beat 'em up with a Yakuza storyline, but it's also a really silly game with a lot of really funny dialogue and scenarios that happen, and I was actually really enjoying it. Titanfall 2, I think, is one of the best first-person shooters ever made, and it has one of the best levels I've ever played in a first-person shooter. This game is phenomenal. Until Dawn, I've actually played and beat twice. It is a story-driven horror game where your goal is to try to keep all or as many characters alive throughout the game as possible through the 10 chapters, and it's a really good story and it's a lot of fun. Mother Gunship is a roguelike first-person shooter that takes place in space, and it's not bad. Prey, another game from Arcane Studios. This is a fantastic first-person action-adventure shooter game that takes place on a giant ship. It's very creepy, has a ton of unique gameplay mechanics, and it is a game that I highly recommend for your own PS4 collection. Resident Evil 6, this is one that I haven't spent a whole lot of time with. I played a fair bit of Leon's campaign. I need to get back to it even though a lot of people hate this game. Resident Evil 7, I played about the first 3 or 4 hours. It's yet again another game I need to get back to, but I found this to be very creepy. And it's also a first-person viewpoint entry in the Resident Evil series, which is very interesting. Journey to the Savage Planet. Here's another game that I consider to be a hidden gem and really flew under the radar. It is a first-person action-adventure game that takes place on this crazy planet, and you're just exploring and trying to gather information. It is a super, super fun game. Just Cause 3 is a super over-the-top sort of GTA-like game, but one where you just blow shit up, fly around, and drive crazy vehicles, and it's just crazy, like over-the-top action movie action. The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2, one of my favorite video game series. These games are up there with some of my favorite games ever made. I think they're both masterpieces. That's right, even The Last of Us Part 2, which is very divisive, I think is even better than the first game, and I cannot wait for, hopefully, The Last of Us Part 3. Little Big Planet 3 is a fun platforming adventure game. Lords of the Fallen is another Souls-like game. It also has a fantasy setting, and it's a lot of fun. It's not as good as Dark Souls, just like the others, but it's still really solid and a decent entry into a Souls-like collection if you like that genre. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. I actually played, I don't know, the first 5 or 10 hours of this. I need to get back to it, but this game has one of the most intense and insane openings I think I've ever played in a video game. Marvel Spider-Man, one of the best superhero games ever made. It is phenomenal. The best Spider-Man game, period. Has a fantastic story. Play it. The new Tomb Raider trilogy. So here's where I stand. I really, really loved the first game. I thought it was phenomenal. I loved the second game, but not as much as the first game. The third game, I didn't really care for that much. I thought it was the weakest in the series and very forgettable. So my recommendation to everyone out there would be to at least play the first game in the trilogy because I thought it was fantastic, and maybe even the second game too. Deadpool. This game is hilarious, action-packed, and a whole lot of fun. So if you're a fan of Deadpool and you like action games, check it out. Thief. This is a super fun stealth game where every level you can basically approach in a number of different ways and you're just trying to steal stuff. It's really, really fun. Highly recommend it. It also has an extremely creepy level randomly in the game. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I've tried twice to get into this game. I'm sorry, folks. I know a lot of you are not going to like hearing me say this, but I think this is one of the most overrated games ever made. No Man's Sky, the game that started out broken, but they have completely redeemed themselves because now this game is phenomenal and packed full of content. Red Dead Redemption 2. I have not beat it. I need to get back into it. I played it for about 20 hours. It is a huge, long game, but I was really, really loving it, so I need to get back to this one. Shadow Warrior, super over-the-top action first-person shooter, and it is also quite hilarious. Skyrim, you all know what Skyrim is. The Evil Within. This is a super creepy and disturbing game, and although I haven't beat it, what I have played, I really enjoyed it. Fallout 76. Hey, listen, I like Fallout 76. Yet another example of a game that was broken at launch, but Bethesda has pretty much fixed it, and now it's packed full of content, and it's actually a lot of fun. So I would recommend giving it a chance if you're a fan of the Fallout series. Fallout 4, my favorite game in the Fallout series, hands down. Love this game so much. Far Cry 5, my favorite entry in the Far Cry series. The Far Cry arcade that they added in this game was an absolute blast. This game has a great story, it's a lot of fun. And then Far Cry 6 happened, and it sucked. Final Fantasy 15, I put about, 10 hours into this one. I need to go back to it, but I was enjoying what I played. God of War, 10 out of 10 masterpiece, easily one of my favorite games ever made. It's definitely up there on my list. Injustice Gods Among Us. This is a really fun DC fighting game. Infamous Second Son. This is actually the only game that I've played and beat in the Infamous series, but I couldn't put it down. So much fun. I had a blast with this game. Really good story too. Horizon Zero Dawn. All right, it's time to make you guys mad again. I have tried twice to get into this game. Second time I put 10 hours into it, maybe even 15, and I just struggle with it. This is yet another game that I feel like is extremely overrated. It Takes Two, I honestly think this might be one of the greatest co-op games ever made. This game is phenomenal, and it has a fantastic story. Cyberpunk 2077, I had to wait like 2 years after this game released to play it because I had to wait on them to fix the damn thing, but I actually enjoyed it. You know, I thought it was pretty fun. I don't think I'll ever play it again, but I had a lot of fun with it. Okay, so now we're gonna go over all of the PlayStation 4 games in my collection that I have not played yet. There's quite a few. I still have a large backlog to get through, but what I want you guys to do is I'm going to go through these games 10 at a time. I'm just going to quickly read them off. Let me know in the comments if you've played any of these games. Let me know what you think about them. I would love to hear from you in the comments, but let's go ahead and knock through these real quick. Odin's Spear, Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, Roman Rumble in Las Vegas, Colat, Ghosts of Tsushima, Ghostbusters, Galaxy Z and Skulls of Shogun, For Honor, God of War 3, Gravity Rush 2, Attack on Titan, Neo, Hoa, Curved Space, Man of Medan, Dangerous Driving, Destiny, Devil May Cry HD Trilogy, Dirt 4, Divinity Original Sin 2, Pac-Man Championship Edition, Just Cause 4, Knack, Knack 2, Kingdom Hearts 2.8, The Last Tinker, City of Colors, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Life is Strange, Mafia 3, and Mafia, Mad Max, Mortal Kombat 11, Mortal Kombat X, Duke Nukem 3, The Evil Within 2, Far Cry Primal, Middle-earth Shadow of War, Transformers Devastation, Rage 2, Shadow of the Colossus, Killzone Shadowfall, Doom Eternal, Dragon Quest Heroes, The Crew, Call of Duty World War II, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Call of Cthulhu, Bound by Flame, Bloodborne, Republic, Zombie Army 4 Dead War, The Order 1886, Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire, Pharaonic, Mortal Shell, Awesome Knots Assemble, Assault Suit Lanos, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Agents of Mayhem. And the final stack, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Star Wars Squadrons, Strange Brigade, Styx, The Surge 2, Warhammer Chaos Bane, Wolfenstein The Old Blood, Yakuza Kiwami, Yakuza 6, and Yakuza Kiwami 2. That is it for today's video on the current state of my PlayStation 4 collection. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that you were able to learn about a ton of awesome PlayStation 4 games to check out, add to your own collection, and play. Hopefully I was able to recommend some good games to you, some hidden gems. Let me know in the comments down below if there are any PlayStation 4 games that you recommend that I add to my own collection. Throw those in the comments down below. Appreciate you guys tuning in to today's episode, and I'll catch you next time.